here at the entrance to the magnificent stately home of Wentworth Wooodhouse in Rotherham, Yorkshire's best-kept secret. In its heyday, it required a small army of servants to run it. Pay was never very high, but this was an elite place to work. For someone just starting out in service in the early 1900s, experience as a servant at Wentworth Woodhouse could be a rung on the service ladder to the exalted heights of butler, groom of chambers, or even steward. In 1911, just 34 live-in staff managed this vast house. Today, we're going to look at the life story of just one of them.
Morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Wentworth Woodhouse. You're the new housemaid.
Yeah.
My name's Bonnie William Willson, but don't call me Bonnie. They call me William round here. I'm the steward's room boy. Come on, this way.
I was born in Newmarket, Cambridgeshire. I'm one of 8. My father James is a butler. My brother too. So you could say, I'm following in their footsteps. I knew exactly what to expect.
In April 1911, William, at 19, was the youngest and most junior of male staff. In fact, he had just started his job here. As steward's room boy, William was here to learn how to become a footman. He joined a long line of steward's room boys who spent 6 months here, being instructed in their duties by Mr. Volan, the groom of chambers or the steward, before getting a job here or elsewhere.
I work 8 till 5, 7 days a week. My first duty of the day is to deliver his lordship's breakfast tray.
Thank you.
Thank you, boy.
He never remembers my name. And I head downstairs to lay the table in the steward's room. It's the grandest of all the servants' halls. It's my job to serve the upper 10 servants here, and any of visiting servants. All under the watchful eye of one of the footmen, of course. Heaven help me if I spill the soup.
I'm watching you.
At lunchtime, it's my job to fetch the wine for the family from the cellars. It's a labyrinth. I wouldn't be surprised to find the skeleton of the last steward's room boy down here.
The cellars were vast. 25 years before, an awestruck reporter had estimated they contained 18,000 bottles of wine and 6,000 of sherry.
At dinner time, I assist the groom of the chambers in the butler's pantry, and then I take items needed up to the state dining room. For a grand dinner, we all help lay the table. The butler, the footman, the valet and the steward. In between times, I'm basically a dog's buddy. Everybody has a job for me. I shine shoes, take messages, answer the telephone. Wentworth House? Certainly, sir. Wait one moment. And I send and receive telegrams.
For his lordship.
Where is he?
In his office, the South Tower. William! Not that way. This way.
If I'm unlucky enough to catch Nanny's eye, she'll have me pushing the pram round the garden while she puts her feet up. And the third footman will have me taking the Countess's dog out for a drag if he can. That dog hates me. There you go. What he needs is proper training. Come. Drop. Drop it. Drop it. Here, boy. Here, boy. Good doggy.
William must have been a quick learner, as his apprenticeship as steward's room boy was unusually short. By July, he had risen to the newly created post of fourth footman. In his first days at Wentworth Woodhouse, William had met someone who was also in training, someone who was to become very important to him. Edith Mary Mason, the 20-year-old second kitchen maid, had arrived the year before and worked alongside the French chef Julien Auger and Nance Elliott, the head kitchen maid, training in the kitchens of the great house. When she left in June 1913 for a job in London as a cook, William followed her 14 months later. In August 1914, William left Wentworth Woodhouse to work for the Earl of Eames and March in his imposing house in Cadogan Square. He was there for 2 brief months before he was swept up in the war effort, signing on for 3 years with his home regiment, the Northamptonshires. This battalion was famously raised by Edgar Mobbs, who captained the Northampton Saints and the England rugby team. Finding himself too old for military service at age 32, he raised his own company of 264 sportsmen. These were the core of the battalion. Only 85 were to survive the war. Mobbs was not among them. William found himself one of the many new recruits drafted in to replace the 400 men, about half their strength, that the battalion had lost during their first disastrous 3 days at Loos. While William sewed his new corporal stripes onto his uniform with some pride and endured his first weeks at the front, Captain Mobbs made a short visit home to make calls of condolence on the families of the bereaved. He spoke of his men to a reporter from the Northampton Mercury.
They really are extraordinary men. The trenches are knee-deep in water. They are wonderfully cheerful and very fit. We had an excellent Christmas in billets, with plum puddings from the Independent and many other gifts from Northampton. And an afternoon football match in which the men beat the officers by 4 goals to 1.
By the time Captain Mobbs gave his interview, William had shared those Christmas celebrations, accomplished a series of forced marches, and done his turn in the trenches under heavy shelling. In January 1916, after 5 weeks from hell under near constant bombardment, William was diagnosed with valvular disease of the heart and was sent to Hardwicke Grange Hospital to convalesce. The stresses, nerve fatigue and sheer terror of being in the trenches resulted in nearly 40,000 soldiers being diagnosed with heart disorders. Now we would have called it PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. William was diagnosed as unfit for further service in June 1917, and he began to look for work as footman or valet. He never returned to Wentworth Woodhouse. By 1923, he had taken a job as a servant here at the St James's Chambers in Ryder Street, Westminster, just 20 minutes' walk from where Edith Mason worked as a cook in the household of a certain Baron Profumo, King's Counsel. His young son John was one day to become embroiled in a scandal that brought down a British Prime Minister and rocked a government. On the 31st of December 1927, 16 years after they first met, William and Edith married. He was 35 and she 37. By 1939, he was working as a driver for the RAF, and they had moved back to her Staffordshire home village in Tettenhall. William died in Wolverhampton in Staffordshire in 1967, aged 74. Edith outlived him by only 2 years. If you have a story about a family member who worked at Wentworth Woodhouse to share with us, we'd love to hear from you. Our next life story takes us to the stables to explore the life of our 1911 groom, Ernest Whitworth. His job took him to the very heart of the Fitzwilliam family's life at Wentworth Woodhouse. The horses.